Satyam Param Dhimai. Om Satyam Param Dhimai. Om Satyam Param Dhimai. Om Satyam Param Dhimai. Om Satyam Param Dhimai.
Sense this. Feel the whole body. We'll relax the body. Start with the head. Relax the head, the forehead, the eyes, around the eyes, the ears, nose, two cheeks. Relax the lips, the tongue, the teeth, the gums, the chin. Relax the jawbone, the neck, the two shoulders, the hands, the back, the chest, stomach, two legs. Feel the whole body is totally relaxed. Feel the body as an empty vessel, totally empty. Just the breath moving in and out. In that empty space, fill it up with your presence. Become present. Be present here. Just be. The feeling of being. Not being anything, just to be. To be here. To hold that presence. To feel that presence. The heaviness of presence. The upliftment of presence. Feel the presence. Feel the breath. Feel the presence. Try to sense yourself in two times. The breath in the present moment. The presence in eternity. Even when the breath was not, presence was there. And even again when the breath will not be, presence will always be. Feel that presence. Hold both together, the feeling of breath, the feeling of presence. Divide your attention. Slowly the music will switch up. Keep holding both the feelings. And throughout the period of this talk, try to hold your presence. am here, it is listening. Slowly open your eyes. Jai Shri Krishna. We'll take the next sutra. We have forgotten to write it down, so tomorrow we'll write it down on the board. Today I want to talk about attitudes. So in relation to the Gita class, no? So which attitude does every Hindu have? Which attitude? We talk about attitudes, but it just struck me that which attitude does every Hindu have? If it is in the Gita, it must be correct. If it is in the Gita, it must be correct. No? And we don't question. This is a fixed attitude in us. If somebody comes and gives a lecture and quotes from the Gita, then it's okay, then he's right. And we don't question. And we must question. Otherwise we'll never be free of that attitude. The Gita is a beautiful book. It's a beautiful Shastra. But we must question. Everybody quotes from the Gita. Even initially I used to quote a lot from the Gita. Then one day I was wondering that what am I trying to say? Is what I'm trying to say weak somewhere that I have to prove it by quoting from the Gita? Or am I politically trying to manipulate people because everybody has this attitude in them, if it is in the Gita, it is correct? And Gita is free for all. Anybody can quote anything. Mahatma Gandhi quoted it for his non-violence. But if somebody wants to go and murder somebody, he can also find something to quote from the Gita only. In Saurashtra we have a Gaunti Gita. The Gita of the villages, the Gaunti Gita. And they say, Karsaniya e Arjaniya ne kidhu કે તું તારે જીકે જા, આત્મા મરતો નથી. The spirit never dies, only the body dies. You keep on killing as many as you want. Now somebody who wants to quote non-violence will also find something from it. Somebody who wants to quote violence will also find something from it. In the whole of human culture, there has been no personality like Krishna. He's an all-rounder. If something is the truth today, he'll prove it's wrong tomorrow. And if something is totally wrong, he'll prove it to be the highest truth. He breaks all conditions. There's no conditioning. Today he's speaking the truth, tomorrow he's lying. And he has created these 18 chapters, the Bhagavad Gita, which is anybody can say anything, it's free for all. So we must question when somebody quotes the Gita. Why is he quoting the Gita? It's a beautiful book. But Krishna was the shrewdest of the shrewd. He was the biggest politician of them all. Even the most famous politician in India won't want to fight an election against Krishna. Not possible. There is no dimension of life which he has left untouched. He is the master of all dimensions, not the jack of all trades. And he has created this where anybody can find anything. Somebody is walking on the path of bhakti, he'll say bhakti is the greatest. Somebody walking on the path of Gyan, he'll say Gyan is the greatest. Anybody can take anything. So shrewdly he has put these 18 chapters together. He's the master politician. And that is why when people quote the Gita, ask questions. Ask, why does he have to quote the Gita? There's definitely something wrong in what he's saying.
The attitude is that, from my understanding, it's like the Christians will have the Bible, in which to base their life, the Muslims will have the Quran, and so we have the Gita. So if you're questioning it, is it not, is it for us to question when we don't know ourselves so much, and that is now the basis of what we should be?
Yes, because it forms a dead mechanical attitude. And we want to be free of that attitude. By questioning, you're not defiling anything, you're expanding your consciousness.
No one says you can question.
Yes, you must question. Must question. Don't criticize. Question. Question. The ultimate knowledge is there. But question it when it comes in the hands of politicians and they manipulate its quotations for proving what they want to prove. Question.
Can you give an example of how you question that?
Supposing I'm talking about, say, the Gayatri Mantra. Right? And I say, okay, Krishna has said in all chands, Gayatri is the highest chand. Now, why do I use that quotation? To convince you. It's politics. It's politics. And actually, does the Gayatri Chand have anything to do with the Gayatri Mantra? You must ask yourself that question. What is Chand? Where does Chand comes from? What is this inner movement between these packets of energy? You get what I'm trying to say? So people, it's free for all. That is why whenever you hear people quoting the Gita, always ask questions. Ask yourself, why does he have to quote the Gita? Because it is a free for all. Anybody can pick up anything what he wants from there and quote it. And in that the organic whole of the Gita is lost. If somebody is quoting science, then it's a different thing. He's opening up the science of something. But if he's quoting it to prove something, then ask a question. You get what I'm trying to say? Attitudes. Now today's sutra is Viparya Yoga. Mithya Jnanam Atad Rupa Pratishtham. Viparya, wrong knowledge. Viparya is wrong knowledge. Mithya Jnana, wrong knowledge. Illusory knowledge. Atad Rupa Pratishtham. It is, you are referring to something, seeing the form which is not. Which is not. And the normal example which everyone gives is that there is a piece of rope on the road, but you see it from far, you think it is a snake. That is the normal example. Viparyoyo mithya jnana. You go closer and it becomes right knowledge. You see that it is just a piece of rope. But that is a very ordinary example. How do we see the world? How do we see the world? And we see the world through our attitudes. And these attitudes are formed very, very deep in childhood. And through an attitude, we can never see what is. We only see what the attitude colors. Now, before this, we had known that there are two sides to our work: knowledge and being. Now, initially when we gain knowledge, it is a part of memory. When do we unite with this knowledge? When does the knowledge come into our blood? When do we understand the knowledge? When we apply it. When we apply it. Right? Supposing we say there is an observing side and an observer side. Now this is knowledge. But unless we have applied it, that knowledge is just a part of our memory. The minute we start applying it, it starts uniting with us. It starts becoming one with us. It becomes our knowledge. So, supposing I am talking to you, then this knowledge which I got from my guru is memory, is a part of the memory. But if I have tried to apply that knowledge, then I can say that knowledge is now mine. It is now mine, because in that application of that knowledge goes from the memory, it starts uniting with my being. It becomes a part of my being, because I am trying to apply that knowledge every day in life. There is an application of the knowledge. But if the ideas just remain in memory, then a time will come when they may give me a false impression that I know the truth. That is why it becomes very difficult to discuss truth with people. You cannot discuss. In that discussion, you are only playing with words. You can only become one with the knowledge if you start applying the knowledge. Otherwise, it just remains a mental exercise, a mental gymnastic. So knowledge which has not been applied can become wrong knowledge. And I used to stay with Vimla ji. She was my teacher for 4 years, from 1984 till I met Tavarya Sahib in 1988. And every year we used to spend, my wife and I used to spend a month with her. And she had this beautiful saying: once you've understood something, start applying it in your life. If you don't apply the truth immediately, that very truth will destroy you. That very truth will destroy, because then it becomes a part of the ego. And once it becomes a part of the ego, we'll never apply it. We'll keep on quoting it, we'll keep on discussing it, we'll keep on making other people understand it, whilst we have never used the knowledge. And that ego will never let us go forward. It will destroy us completely, because now we feel that we know when we don't know anything. Some of our sayings were so beautiful, so beautiful. I remember another of our sayings: reject not what life has brought to your doorstep, but never ask from life. Never ask anything for life. But if life brings something to your doorstep, don't say no to it. So she had some beautiful sayings and very beautiful person. She has written a beautiful book. She has written many books. She traveled the world for 40 years teaching people. She even talked in the United Nations. But her first book is a beautiful book on an eternal voyage. It's a very small book, 40-50 page book, but it's beautiful reading.
And she says, never ask from life. Is it you're not supposed to ask material things or is it just anything?
Then try to see what we have been talking about. What have we been talking about? In relation to that. Before your mithya jnana, I can't see you properly. In relation to that, try to. When we ask, we create the opposite. The very asking creates the opposite. Why does man suffer? Just ask, tell me, why does man suffer? Why does man suffer? He's asking all the time. Not a moment goes by when he's not asking. Not a moment goes by. Asking all. And can you see every moment he's creating passive force in his life? Right? If I'm here and just this moment, if I'm asking why did he put the table like this, he should have put it like this. I didn't put it like this. And in that very asking, I am inviting pain and suffering. Can you see this? Can you see this? Every moment I am asking. Or the light should be a little dimmer. Again I am creating. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Why man suffers? Because he is not free of asking. There was a beautiful Sufi mystic and his name was Farid. And he lived near Delhi in a small village. And the Emperor Akbar was one of his followers. He used to come to Farid and sit for hours with Farid. And Farid was a poor fakir. Now, the village in which Farid was staying was a poor village. So the village people came to Farid. They said that our village has no school, our village has no hospital, and Akbar comes to meet you. Do something for us. At least a school is needed, a hospital is needed. If you just tell the emperor he's going to build a school over here. And the village was poor, uneducated, there was no hospital. So Farid said, okay, but I don't really know how to ask. I don't know how to ask. Because I have never asked for anything for a very long time. But if you say so, I will go to the emperor and ask. So he started walking from the village and in the morning he reached the palace of the emperor in Delhi. All the guards and everybody knew that Akbar was a big lover of Farid. And so nobody stopped him, he was allowed to enter immediately. Akbar was in his shrine praying and he went up there and he saw that the emperor was praying. So Farid just stood there waiting for him to finish his prayers. And Akbar did not know that Farid was standing behind him. And he was praying and he was saying, "Oh God Almighty, make my empire greater than it is. And oh Almighty, increase my wealth more than it is." Right? And Farid was listening to it. And he turned away and he started walking away from the palace. And Akbar finished his prayers and he turned around and he saw that Farid had come and he's walking down the steps. So he shouted, How did you come? And why did you come? Why are you leaving? For it said, I came to see an emperor, but I saw a beggar. It's useless. My coming here is useless. I had come to ask you for something, but you are asking God for something. So why can't I ask God directly for it? Why ask you? So however much we have, and Akbar has written this down, this incident. And Akbar says, at that moment I understood that the mind goes on asking for more and more. So, it's every asking leaves a score inside, leaves a score. Try to, I'm good. Let's see if I can just make it a little clearer. Supposing there is only one force. We're just supposing there is only one force. And that force, at a certain point of application, it becomes 3. But it is not 3, it is 1. Just at this point of application, it is 3. Because one has to be active, one has to be passive, one has to be neutralized. Right? Now, supposing it is an electrical switchboard. It is an electrical switchboard. The force is 1, but to get electricity in our homes, we need 3 wires. We can't have 1 wire. Right? So we'll say the active goes through a red wire. The passive goes through a blue wire. And the neutral goes through a black wire. Right? Neutral. Passive. Active. Now, let us take the opposite. Just for our discussion's sake, we take the opposite. That there is one force coming. If I give the force a red wire, it becomes active. But if I don't give it a red wire, I give it a blue wire, it becomes passive. And if I give it a black wire, it becomes neutral. Neutralizing. The real word is neutralizing, not neutral. Right? Okay. Now, every time I am desiring in the mind, I am asking for something in the mind, the force is moving through a red wire. It is moving through a red wire. Now, what am I creating as something as a residue in the mind? What am I creating? What am I creating? I'm creating a blue wire. A blue wire, which is lying in my subconscious mind. It is lying in my subconscious mind because I have asked for something, the opposite has been created. Now tomorrow I go to start a new enterprise. I go to start a new enterprise, say a shop or a factory or whatever I am starting, something new. Right? That is life coming in. Which wire do I have to give life? What does passive force do? Can you see? What is the cause of all my suffering? It's so simple.
That's why instead of asking, say I want wealth. Say for example, if you say how can I create more wealth, does that also have the same effect as?
See, you cannot fool the universal mind. People come to me and they say, okay, my Janam Patri is like this. Supposing I put the business in my wife's name. I mean, whom are you trying to fool? And man, you can't beat man. Can't beat. If your horoscope is bad, you put the business in your wife's name. Good.
You started off talking about the attitudes. I have a theory that the parents play a significant role in the formation of attitudes, and the mother in particular.
Very true.
Response.
Very, very true. But before the parents, what plays a role? Before the parents. See, a child is formed in the mother's womb. At the 7th month, all the racial characteristics are imprinted in the psychology of that child, the psychic structure of that child. All his racial characteristics. And they are decided before birth. They are decided before birth. That is why in the 7th month we have that, what do you call it, Garbha Shrimant Puja, you know. People don't know what they are doing. They don't know. I've never seen a single puja where somebody is explaining what is happening. Right? So, the universal mind is passing on the racial characteristics at this time. And they are predetermined before the child is born. Right? So, they play a big role, very big role. See, just the seeing of somebody else of another religion. Maybe he or she is wearing a different kind of clothes. Immediately an attitude is turned on. Can you see? That is the 7th month talking. Then our thinking comes in, no, I'm a modern man, I don't go for all this. But if we see deep down, the attitude has been turned on. Whilst parents do play a role, like, you know, I take children's camps these days. And children have not seen what India was 40 years ago. You know, they don't know. It's now it's a fairy tale for them. But I know that when the person who used to come to clean the bathrooms and toilets at our home, when my mother would give him tea, it would be in a different cup. You see, the kettle would not touch that cup. I remember all these things. Can you see? Now today it has no meaning in today's India. But 40 years ago, just 40 years. Right? And I remember this. And you see, we are free of that. But that does not mean when somebody says, I am of this caste, the thought does not come. Somewhere that attitude is still deep within us. Can you understand? These attitudes, they turn on automatically. Automatically. And they are so deep, it takes years of hard work to be free of them. Otherwise, what happens? Life, we don't do anything in life. Every impression which comes in, our attitude works for us and we are sleeping. The attitude decides. Before I go, I want to talk about conscience. What is conscience? And we will see that we have a false conscience. The false conscience comes through an attitude. So it needs hard work to be free of these attitudes. And they, like you said, they are formed very early in childhood. Very, very early in childhood. Actually, recently, for the first time, somebody was having a 7th month puja, and I happened to be in Ahmedabad. So they said, will you come for 5 minutes? So I went at the time. Now usually that is a ladies gathering. The gents don't go for that gathering. And then I made the husband and wife sit down, and I said that, see, just let's pray for something. Let's pray for something. And we lit a ghee lamp, and we says that just a child is coming through us. Is coming through us. He is not our child. It is the child of the universal mind who is loaning him to us to look after. You know, I created a small prayer like that. We will give him our love, but we will not impose our attitudes upon the child. To have a child is a sacrifice. So we will sacrifice our pleasures for the upbringing of the child. So in that way, I said, then you do your puja, whatever you want to do, but this is what you do. And it turned out so well. You know, it turned out so well. So, there was something in that 7th month puja, because those attitudes, we are born with those attitudes. We don't even realize it. It's a part of our birth. And it reflects in everything. In our thinking, in everything it reflects. We will not like a certain kind of food because we've been born in a certain family. If somebody talks about something like, you know, gambling or drinking or something, then we will automatically take on an attitude. You get it? So, all this has come before birth. And then the mother and father add to it. Of course, just now what we were talking about was knowledge which is not applied. It becomes wrong knowledge. Now, one thing which a lot of people say, and they say, I know that I am angry. Mane khyal che ke mane gusso che. Now, this does not mean anything. This does not mean anything. I know that I am angry. It does not mean that I am observing my anger. Many times a person behaves badly. He knows he behaves badly, but if you ask him what he said, he will not remember anything he or she said. Did I say that? Right. Now, can you tell me something, the difference between knowing and observing? What will be the difference? What will be the difference? What will be the difference?
When you observe it, you change it.
Yes, but something else comes with observing. Supposing I am observing my anger today. Now, after 3 days, again I get angry. Now, at that instant, I am not observing my anger, but I have observed my anger 3 days ago. Right? What will be the difference at that time? I have not yet started observing the anger. What will be the difference? What will be the difference? Supposing I come to your home and you show me your home, you say this is my bedroom, this is my sitting room, this is my dining room. Right? and I come again tomorrow, and again you show it to me. What will I say? I'll say, you showed it to me yesterday. Right? So say, I've really observed my anger today. Not I know that I'm angry. Everybody knows that they are angry. Right? So I really observed my anger today, and after 3 days is the beginning of anger. I feel the rumblings inside.
Stopping it.
And you suddenly say, I know that I have been here. I've seen this scenery before. You understand what I'm trying to say? I saw your house yesterday. I don't want to see it today. Can you get what I'm trying to say? Suddenly you will say, I've seen this. But if you know that you've been angry, you won't know. You get what I'm trying to say? You've not observed. But in that observation, there is a separation. And suddenly you feel that this is familiar ground, a kind of deja vu. That you feel that, I've been here this book before. I'm seeing the same scenery again. The same thing is repeating. And you'll say, no, you'll feel a kind of boredom. I don't want to get angry. You understand what I'm trying to say? This is the difference, what comes out of observation. There's a strange feeling inside, that I have been here before. I've been here before. We have seen this scene before. And that strange feeling, it takes the force out of the anger. The intensity of the anger goes away immediately, and so easy it becomes to observe it. So just by knowing that I'm in a bad mood or knowing that I'm angry will not change anything. We must separate ourselves into an observing side and an observed side. Now we all have very, very deep attitudes, and they always give us false knowledge. Viparyayo mithya jnanam atadrup pratishtham. There is always mistaken identity. There is mistaken knowledge. And they are acquired from outer influences in life. Education, country, religion, social position, heritage, and all the prejudices which we form early in life. Can you see in today's world the basic idea of propaganda? The basic idea of propaganda is to get young children and instill attitudes in them at a very early age in life. Right? This is the whole idea behind propaganda. And if this is done successfully, that person becomes totally unconscious that he is living an attitude. He doesn't know about it at all. He's totally a slave of that inner attitude which has been hypnotized into that young child. See, when we were children, of course, we were born much after independence, but some of the attitudes were still there, no? So my father would say, an Englishman's word is his bond. So you are hypnotized at a young age that whatever an Englishman says is correct, and an Englishman can be trusted. And then the opposite is also true. If you tell an Englishman that I can't trust you, he says, don't you know I am an Englishman? Right? So, and now India is coming out of it. But when we were children, it was very evident that the English had gone, but they had gone only physically. The mental slavery still continued inside. The attitude still continued inside. See, we don't see this. Now say a sportsman. He'll say, my conscience does not allow me to cheat in sports. Does not allow me to cheat in sports. But in business, I have no scruples. Right? In business, I have no scruples. Now, if you have a conscience, how can that conscience be right somewhere and wrong somewhere? Definitely there's something wrong with the conscience. It's an attitude. Something which is dead inside us, which is mechanical inside us, and which we are taking for something alive. Conscience. Of course, now even sport has become a business. There was one study done that which is the richest group of professionals, and they found that it was sportsmen. They are the richest group of professionals. Right? And they don't go to work, they go to play. Maybe we should learn something. Now, an attitude first forms in the intellectual center, but then it works through the emotional center. I become emotional about it. It forms in the intellectual center, but then I become emotional about it. And as long as attitudes govern my thinking, I can never be free. They give us preconceptions, prejudices. We see everything through them. We see a person of another religion, we see because he is of this religion, he may be either good or bad. As if goodness or badness has anything to do with religion or belonging to race, to color. So, a wrong attitude distorts life. Yesterday we talked about the three kinds of influences: A influence, B influence, and C influence. And A influences in life: politics, war, riches, position, sport, etc. Now, can you see that an attitude holds us to them by a thin, invisible line? We can never be free. We are always in the law of the pendulum, yes and no. See, if I have an attitude against something and I'm emotional about it, this is wrong. Can I see the law of the pendulum? Can I see how a thin, invisible thread is connecting me to that? No. Can you just see? Supposing I'm telling somebody you cannot eat this kind of food, it's not allowed. Can I see in that attitude a thin, invisible thread is connecting me to that kind of food? That very attitude is connecting me to it. I'm in the law of the pendulum. I don't even know. The pendulum may have a long thread and one day it's going to move from this way to that way, and when it moves over here, I may be in some other body, some other this thing, and I will like that very food which I have been cursing because it is lying inside. Can you see? That attitude is connecting me to something totally wrong. All attitudes, they give wrong connections. All the higher thinking, the higher emotions, they are beyond yes and no. There is no yes and no over there. There is something which is yes, no, both. Like I said, it is a double thinking over there. This is wrong also, this is right also. Right. Supposing we have an attitude for male or female, try to see this inside. And if you can't observe it inside, observe it in others. Don't go to tell them. Observe it in others so that you can observe it in yourself. Right? When girls are playing alone in the room, just peep in And then just see if one male comes in the room and how their attitude changes. Can you see that deep down we all have this attitude, male and female. Male and female. And be authentic inside. Be authentic inside. My mother is more than 80 years old. Right? But when I'm observing inside, even when my mother comes in front of me, deep down there is this distinction. She is female, I am male. Can you see this? How deep it is. How much we have to work on this to be free of this. And why do we want to be free of this attitude? Why do we want to be free of this attitude? Supposing I am rejecting my mother, okay, this cannot be told to her, she is a female. This is boy's talk. A little boy's talk. It cannot be told to her. Right? Supposing I am rejecting her. What am I exactly doing? What am I doing? Can I see that I am male and female? Both. I am not rejecting her, I am rejecting a part of me. And spirituality is the marriage of the inner male and female. Now if I am rejecting my inner female, I am saying, hey, she is female, I am male, deep down. And this is beyond name. This is beyond name. The name is not coming in. Okay, my name is this and her name is that. This is beyond name. Deep down there is a rejection. This cannot be done in front of female. Can you see this? And I am rejecting the inner female. And spirituality is that deep spiritual marriage of the inner male and female. Unless I can accept outside, how will I be able to accept inside? I have to be free of this attitude. See, we are all living in one side of our being and we don't want to open the other side. We have an attitude to male or female, but there is a woman in man and a man in woman. And if we have a bad attitude to women in general, can you see? I may have a bad attitude not just for my mother but to all women in general, right? Then I can never move into myself. I can never accept the dark side of myself. I'll never be able to accept the hidden side of myself. I remember one day I was because today we remembered Vimlaji, I'll just say, I was sitting with her and I said, Vimlaji, when that ultimate experience happened, what was happening inside? Please tell me something. And she said, Rajan, at one point even the male and female was falling. There was no male, no female. I could touch my body to see whether I was a woman or whether I was a man. You go beyond the male and female. And try to expand this same analogy. Supposing I hate someone. This expand the same analogy. Right? I hate women. I hate myself. Same way, if I hate someone, I am hating myself. I am hating a part of myself. So attitudes are very unreal things. There is society. And in society, we follow the rules of male and female. But we must be free of it inside of us. I'm not telling you make a revolution outside. Be free inside. So we have certain ingrained points of view within us. which we regard from, and from that mirror, from that glass, we are looking at the world, we are looking at everybody else, and we are also looking at ourselves from that point of view. Now, one of the most deeply ingrained attitudes, yeah, you see?
Yeah, I just want to know, for her ultimate experience, Brahmaji's ultimate experience, was it beyond was it past that Jana Tippa, was it in that phase, or was it before that Mahakal phase? Where does that ultimate experience?
Yes, so she was realizing Tapa within her. Right? She had not yet broken free of Mahakal, but she had realized the Tapa within herself. Now, then comes the choice when you want to break free of Mahakal. Maybe you want to come back for one more month. Maybe you want to play one more time. Right? You don't know. Maybe you made a promise to someone. You want to come back. So, and
there's two ultimate experiences. There's one in the Purvasura, that note, there's an ultimate experience, and there's another one.
Where?
From the cosmology we spoke of.
Mm-hmm.
There's that Purvasura, so she had an experience, an ultimate experience there, and then she didn't break Mahakal to get into Jannat.
No, I'm just giving you an example. I don't know what she did. But what I'm trying to say is that at one point you realize it for yourself.
Remember when we had talked about what the Atma is? What did I say? Yes, but it is like I said it is like a diamond. Right? It is like a diamond, and it is covered by a translucent covering. Right? It is covered by a translucent, so the light comes out. The light comes out. This translucent covering is called as causal body. Karan Sharir. This light which comes out is called as soul. Right? Now this causal body has 3 monitors. 3 micro monitors. One controls the physical body, one controls the astral body, one controls the mental body. These are called seed atoms. Seed atoms. Beej. Right? The original Beej mantra is Om. Paranada. Paranada. Now, supposing in this thing you do experience moksha, what she is talking about. To escape from this Mahakala, you have to burn these seed atoms with Paranada. You have to say the Omkar and burn those seed atoms. Then you escape. As long as the seed atoms are there, you are still a part of this. Even though you have experienced. You understand? So if that person has not consciously burnt these seed atoms, he or she or whatever will want to come back maybe 1 or 2 more times. Right? And at some time they will decide to burn the seed atoms, and that is the end of the matter.
My teacher had said, when I go I'll say bye, and when I come I'll say hi. Now, what is one of the most deeply ingrained attitudes in us? whether we accept it or not. And sometimes it comes out in the opposite. Sometimes it comes out in the opposite. All self-love is created out of this attitude. All self-love is created out of this attitude. I am better than you. I am better than you. I am superior to you. Right? This is one of the deepest attitudes, and it has to be observed. It has to be observed. Always we want to have the last word in something. We always want to leave a little bit of our color in everything. You get it? You got this job, but I'd also helped you to get it. I'd also helped you to get it. Right? Can you see? Everywhere it's a very deeply ingrained attitude. And you can take the opposite. Some people have an inferiority complex. This is the same attitude, but the coin is turned upside down. It's the same attitude. Now this attitude, we first have to observe that with which kind of people does it get turned on immediately, that I am better than you, and where does it come from? Like we were talking about birth. I may have a feeling of superiority about my heritage. Right? I may be born in some caste. I may be born in some family. Right? So I have a feeling something about where I was born, and whenever I'm talking to somebody, it comes on. I don't know if any of you have visited Jaipur. And Jaipur, there is a city palace. And there are huge paintings of all the Maharajas sitting like this with the sword, and can you see the attitude? It's such a beautiful description of, expression of attitude. If you go to see it, vanity. Everything is false. Everything is false. So this attitude will automatically get turned on. Supposing I am of a high caste and somebody of a lower caste comes, it will automatically get turned on. And this is totally mechanical. And if I am observing myself, I will see that I am automatically disliking these people. Now supposing we start making an effort that we want to be free of this attitude. So we start relating to that person in a different way. We start doing right action. We try to look at that person in scale. We say, okay, he's of this caste, but let's see what kind of a life is he living. Is he living a good life? Okay. Is he looking after his wife well, looking after the children well? Is he a good householder? Right? And suddenly in that dislike, try to bring in some plus points. And a point will come where the dislike will be overpowered by the plus points. So this is making an effort in right action. So we start appreciating something of value in the person we dislike, where the dislike has come automatically from an attitude of superiority. We talk with them, we try to talk with them. We try to ask them how they've lived their life, what they have done, what they find interesting in life. And suddenly we may be able to free ourselves for some time from that mechanical attitude. We are taking in new impressions, totally new impressions. Till now that attitude would never have allowed us to take these new impressions. And we have weakened our false personality. This false person, I am born in this family and my father did this and my grandfather did this. Right? This whole, and we don't realize that the essence had no grandfather and no father. There's only one father, the kingdom of heaven. Right? The essence has, but it has to take on a body, and that's why it has a heritage. And when I talk of my heritage, it can have nothing to do with my essence. That my father did this and my grandfather did this. And it gives, try to see that it gives a different feeling, a totally different feeling when I'm talking about my grandfather and my great grandfather. That feeling is the feeling of false personality. Hold that feeling, take that feeling. So we have freed ourselves from a negative attitude which till now was restricting our consciousness of life. It was holding us in a kind of jail. We feel freer. And in that breaking of one attitude, so many things will change inside. The facial expressions will change. The way we are talking will change. The way we look at people will change. And deep inside we will feel we have gained something. Right? Now, another attitude. Can we see that sometimes our education becomes an attitude? Right? And for many years, it's not prevalent so much now, but I remember in my young days and all, it was very prevalent. When you tell people something and suddenly they don't like what you're saying, they say, "Tamne khabar nathi hu ghadelo gadelo chu." They will say, "Don't you know? I've got a degree or something." You must have experienced that, I don't know. Right? And in the old days, to have a BA or an MA degree was a big thing, especially in the small towns of Saurashtra. So if you ask somebody their name, you ask me my name, I'll say Rajen Vakil, BA. So education becomes an attitude. And it's very, in the British system, which school you went to, whether it was a public school or a private school, a boarding school or etc. etc. Today I got a phone from one parent from India. Now, the daughter had asked me 1 year ago that what do I do? I said, so I told her, you do English literature. Now the parent, I said that if you get admission in St. Xavier's, Ahmedabad, it's good. So the parent phoned that she's saying she's getting admission in St. Xavier's, Ahmedabad, but she's also getting admission in St. Xavier's, Bombay. Now it's a better school, definitely, to study English literature. It may be one of the best in India to study at St. Xavier's, Bombay. But then, what about the life in St. Xavier's, Bombay? For a girl alone in Bombay, and I'm wondering, now what answer to give the parent? You see? And I know it's a totally different thing if after 3 or 4 years I can tell somebody that I've studied literature at Xavier's, Bombay rather than literature at Xavier's. It carries a totally different false personality, a totally different impression. But I have to tell the parent that no, Ahmedabad is better than Bombay. So, education becomes a part of false personality, it becomes an attitude. Now, most of the attitudes which we have in us are negative. We don't have any positive attitudes. The real positive attitude which we can create is towards our inner growth. That is one positive attitude which we should create. As we grow older, these typically negative attitudes settle down in us. And they become so strong that we also don't know about them and we cannot change now. Right? So sometimes it's very difficult because old people are now set in their attitudes and you cannot ask them to change. Now a person who is full of attitudes, it becomes very difficult to talk to that person, to have a conversation with that person. Supposing we meet a person, he may have risen very high in life, he may be the judge of a high court or something, he may be a minister or whatever, in a high position in life. But if he is full of attitudes, he'll just live on one side of his being. And everything which comes from the other side, he will judge and condemn. He will not forgive. And those who have hurt him from the other side, he will hold that grudge against them forever and ever. Now just see the opposite. A conscious man will never judge, never condemn, never complain, always forgiving. And a person full of attitudes will never be able to forgive. There was a Jain Muni, and in Osho, in one of his talks, he used to talk about him. And a minister, who became the prime minister later on, he came to meet this Jain Muni. So he did pranam to the Jain Muni. Now the Jain Munis are not allowed to do namaste. They are not allowed. You can bow down to them, but they are not allowed to bow down to you. So now this minister bowed down to this Muni. But the Muni could not bow down, so he put up his hand like this, so the minister felt that he is blessing him. So the minister asked him that I bow down to you, and why didn't you at least do namaste to me? The second thing with the Jain Munis is they must always sit a little higher than you. So he said, why are you sitting higher and making me sit lower? Of course, he was a minister, he was going to become the Prime Minister of India. So then Osho was sitting there. So Osho said that there's only one solution to this problem. Because he is a Jain, he cannot do namaste to you. He cannot bow to you. You can bow to him if you want to. You can take it back also if you want to. But you see that spider up there? You first ask that spider why he is up and you are down. Then you ask him. Attitudes. So a person,
I don't know if it happens in India, but here it happens if in terms of your education, you're a doctor or a lawyer, as compared to somebody who does art or literature, etc. There's an attitude that goes with it, which is now being joined by accountants and engineers. They're joining that level of being up there.
Education gives an attitude. Because now the disparity has become very big. Supposing I'm interested in the stock market, not that I'm involved in the stock market in any way, but I know today that people who are trading in the stock market, they are paid something way beyond anybody else can imagine they can earn. You see? So it's going to create an attitude that I know something which you do not. It's very obvious that today if I win a lottery and there's some money in the bank, maybe my way of walking will change. Right? So, it happens. But these are some of the symptoms. A person with an attitude is easily offended. He gets hurt very easily. Now, if a person is speaking from understanding, you can never hurt that person. It's not possible. He can never be hurt. Now, as we practice our self-observation, we will know immediately that now we are speaking from an attitude. And we will know that because the tone of our voice will change. Right? See, when we are not speaking from an attitude, we are alive. But when we are speaking from an attitude, we are speaking from something very mechanical in us. The tone of voice goes dead completely. And the minute we observe our attitude, we'll feel as if we've escaped from jail. We'll have total new thoughts and new feelings and everything. But we must first at least accept that we live our life through our attitudes. Now another attitude. Oh, we have flew. Another attitude, it's not my fault. મારો વાંક નથી, મેં નથી કર્યું. There's this story, that in one school in India, in the old days, one inspector came to inspect the schools. So he came to the class and he says, okay, today I'm going to find out what the teacher has taught you in the class. So he's saying, कि शिव का धनुष किसने तोड़ा? शिव का धनुष. So one boy got up and he says, जिसने भी तोड़ा वो मैंने नहीं तोड़ा. Right? The story from the Ramayana. They have to break Shiv's dhanush. Only that person will marry Sita. So this inspector came to the school and he said, who broke Shiv's dhanush? He wanted to ask the children whether they knew, and one boy got up, I have not broken it. इस स्कूल में कभी भी कुछ होता है मेरा नाम आता है, इसलिए मैं पहले से कहता हूं कि मैंने नहीं तोड़ा. When anything happens in this school, my name comes. I'm telling you from the beginning that I have not broken it. So we have this attitude inside, it's not my fault, I have not done it. And you go to any mother and complain about her child. He has not done it. He has not done it. I used to work with these people who took drugs, and one day, and I could see that there was this boy that if only some, understanding between mother, father and the child could come in, then a lot of change could happen. So I said, let me go and talk with the mother. So I'm trying to make the mother understand, try to come with a loving attitude to him, and then maybe something can come out of it. She just pounced on me immediately. हमने कुछ गलत किया ही नहीं है. You see, now I knew why that I have done nothing wrong in bringing up my child. Now there was no window to work with the mother. Right? So we have this deeply ingrained attitude, not my fault. And it takes years of hard work to realize that everything in life is our fault. To come from this end to this end. And don't think for a minute, a person who is blaming himself and is in guilt and is saying, oh, I did this wrong and I should not have done it, and he's not accepting his fault. He's just condemning himself in such a way that it is not his fault. And the symptom is that he is always blaming someone else, always finding some fault in life or in something. It's just escaping responsibility. And then we justify. We justify. Self-justification. We keep on justifying something we did wrong. Attitudes never think. They come on so automatically. So automatically. We have attitudes towards religion, sex, politics, science, society, sport, marriage. And it comes on so automatically. So automatically. Divorce, drinking, gambling, everything we have an attitude. And it's so automatic. Today I had a phone from one girl. She's telling me I'm pregnant. So I said, better get married. And then I realized I've spoken from an attitude. And she's telling me, why should I get married? Why can't I have the child without getting married? Yeah, let's think about it. Think about it. Right? So, they come on so automatically. So automatically. And it is impossible to speak with a person who is full of attitudes. We can't speak to him. And it's difficult to free that person from his attitudes. And then at one point we get bored. We can't move any place with this person at all. And then boredom sets in. But attitudes are easy to observe in other people. We have to observe them in ourselves. And one way is the intonation of voice. Intonation of voice. The minute it becomes flat and dead, always say, I am speaking from an attitude. Initially observe it in others. Slowly observe it in self. Try to take an opposite attitude. In politics, in people, try to move to the other side. And one of the very good practices is reading the newspapers. Try to read the newspapers with no inner reaction. No inner reaction. We react immediately. Oh, the Prime Minister did this wrong. Right? And we read something about corruption, something reacts immediately inside. So, one very good practice is read the newspaper, read it slowly, and keep on observing inside that I don't want any reaction. And try to observe the reactions as they come. There's also the attitude of the West and the attitude of the East. See, the West has an attitude to conquer. The East has an attitude to surrender. The West wants to manipulate nature, conquer nature. That is why most of the scientific discoveries have come from the West. When Hillary climbed Mount Everest, all the Western newspapers, they said that Hillary has conquered Mount Everest. Only in one Zen monastery in Japan it was written, Everest has been befriended. This is the Eastern attitude. Surrender. There's one Tantra technique. Look at your wife or your husband as if you're looking at a stranger. Right? I see my wife every day, and maybe after 20 years of 25, 30 years of marriage, I say, I know my wife. Now to look at her as a stranger, maybe she's powdering her nose or something, and then to say, why is she powdering her nose? Right? And see the emotions which come up. Right? So, in his last days, Napoleon was kept a prisoner on a small island in St. Helena. He was nothing, he was not the emperor anymore. And Napoleon's life is fascinating, absolutely fascinating. And maybe he was one of the most brilliant generals who ever lived. And now he had just become an ordinary prisoner. He didn't change his clothes for 6 years. Because the prison would never have given him clothes which suit an emperor. His clothes were completely rotten, faded. They became dirty. The doctor would ask him, why can't you wear better clothes? And he would say, this is an emperor's coat. It may be dirty, but I cannot change it. And he used to walk as if he was still the emperor. He talked as if he was still the emperor. He ordered, but there was nobody to listen to his orders. And he would write letters as if he was still the emperor. Nothing changed. So, we are so mechanical inside, we live through these attitudes. This sutra today, Viparyayo Mithya Jnanam Atadru Pratistham. Wrong knowledge is mistaken identity, and that comes from deep attitudes within us. These are formed early in childhood, and they are a jail, they are a prison, and we must work to be free of them. Thank you. Jai Shri Krishna. Good night. We do the exercise. Please close your eyes. Breathe with the music. Feel the breath as it moves in and out. Feel the breath moving through the body as it merges with the blood and moves through the body. Relax the body. Take your attention to the head. Relax the top of the head, the forehead, the two eyes and around the eyes, the ears, the nose, the two cheeks, the lips, in the mouth, the teeth, the gums, the tongue, the chin, release the jawbone. The jawbone has 2 screws. Release those screws. Relax the neck. The 2 shoulders, the 2 hands, the back, the chest, stomach, legs. Feel the whole body is totally relaxed. It's totally empty. Feel the empty space. In that empty space, fill it up with your own presence. I am. I am occupying the body. I am a guest in the body. Feel this I am. Feel the heaviness of I am. Feel your own presence. Hold the presence. When the presence is there, all thoughts of future and past drop immediately. Just to be. Not to be anything, not to become anything, just to be. To be present. Feel the breath. Feel the presence. Try to hold both together. Divide your attention. One arrow of attention on breath. One arrow of attention on presence. Breath is the present moment. Presence is eternity. One day the breath will stop, but presence will always be there. Slowly the music will stop. Try to hold both together, the feeling of breath, feeling of presence. Try to hold your presence in the next 1.25 hours. Slowly open your eyes.
May I say a few words?
Yeah.
Yesterday, you made a statement that Shri Krishna is the foremost politician. He outsmarts all politicians. And then you also said that Shri Krishna is the most shrewd of shrewd. At that moment, I was taken a little aback. What are you saying? But I did not take it up any further. Early this morning, the statement you made came to my mind. And that came to my consciousness that definitely Shri Krishna is not shrewd at that moment. It came to my mind. To me, someone is shrewd who is smart, witty, and also associate that word shrewd to someone who uses cleverness for his self-gain and nothing else. Shri Krishna is definitely not that. He is there for everybody, even the lowest of low, he uplifts. I was going to ask you to explain why you use that word shrewd. Then I looked up the meaning in the dictionary. Shrewd means astute, sharp, intelligent, clever, alert, sage-wise, far-sighted, and much more. Now what? What was going on in my mind? then it dawned on me that in that present, Shri is mostly used to describe business people when I'm present. Describe people, that business people are shrewd, but of course they do the things for their own gain. I gain an attitude for that word shrewd. I realize that I must drop that negativity. Sir, I am thanking you for making me aware of that negativity. Please keep on making us aware of all the negative aspects and its remedies. I thank you.
Jai Shri Krishna. Good evening. I remember 1966. I was a young boy of 11. And the Indo-Pak War was over. And Lal Bahadur Shastri was our Prime Minister. And he had gone to Tashkent to sign the Indo-Pak Treaty. And in the discussions over there, which went on, he was forced to hand over to Pakistan a pass which the Indian Army had captured. It was called the Haji Pir Pass. So my father was reading this, that Shastri ji has signed over the Haji Pir Pass. And my father told me that this country is going to pay very dearly for this. 90% of the terrorists which came into India, into Kashmir, because terrorism came in Kashmir not in 1966, much later. They came through the Haji Pir Pass. So, foresight. All religious books have been tainted in some way or the other. The only book which cannot be tainted is the Gita, because it is all round. He has done it in such a way that nobody can, taint it in any way. Whatever you want is lying in the Gita. You understand what I'm trying to say? And that is why I use the word shrewd. Of course, yesterday my endeavor was that you should ask questions. You should ask questions. It's good you asked a question. And don't just accept the Gita without asking questions. Ask questions. Another thing which I wanted to say, that there is no aspect of life which Krishna has left untouched. So he has moved in every dimension of life. Now sometimes we may say that some kind of cunningness comes from the lower part of life. Right? But in that wholeness, everything is there. In that totality. And he experienced every dimension of that totality. And that is why we call him Purna Avatar. Nobody else we call Purna Avatar. We cannot imagine any other person to do the same things which Krishna did. You cannot imagine Ram to do it. You cannot imagine Jesus to do it. No one else. So in that sense, I said you are shrewd. He has made something which nobody can take black paint and dirty in any way. You understand what I'm saying? In that sense, shrewd. But also yesterday my idea was that you must question. We accept without questioning. If somebody says this is from the Gita, we accept without questioning. So it was question. That was my idea yesterday. Anyway, today we'll take the next sutra. Shabda Gyan Anupati Vastu Shunya Vikalpa. Imagination is just words, not supported by any real thing. My guru used to call it fancy. He didn't use the word imagination, he used to call it fancy. Fancy rests on images of the mind with no real stuff in them. Now, two things we must work on, and that is daydreaming and brooding. The pendulum keeps on swinging into the future, daydreaming, it keeps on going into the past, brooding. And both are forms of imagination, one tinted with memory. So the ideal way is to keep a notebook and keep a timer in your pocket and let the timer ring 5-6 times a day. And at the point of the ringing of the timer, very authentically write down in the notebook what you are thinking about. Don't sugarcoat it. If you're thinking about sex, write it down. If you're thinking about money, write it down. If you're thinking of manipulating other people, write it down. Do this exercise for 3 months. Then you will see that we have some very, very typical forms of imagination. Maybe 5 or 6 very typical forms of imagination. These will be the common factor throughout this whole exercise. And these forms of imagination keep on returning. We keep on becoming a victim of these forms of imagination. In my own case, I worked a lot to go back to periods in my childhood and to see what kind of imagination we would have there. Now, supposing I had an imagination that I am a king and there are all subjects bowing before me, right? Then I would see that as a child I had this imagination and I would try to see how the form of that imagination has changed, but the imagination is the same, the substance is the same. Maybe now I'm imagining that my wife and everybody is listening to me. So the form has changed, but the imagination is the same. The stuff of the imagination is the same. Unless we work on our imagination, we can never grow. This is something which we have to work on. And we have all kinds of imagination about ourselves, the feeling of what we really should be or what we inside feel that we really are. Maybe life has valued us very differently. Life may not have valued me properly, but inside when I'm imagining, I'm putting a certain value on myself. And it is these secret ideas which all of us have inside of our minds that we have to be free of. Now, can we realize that the daydreaming may happen at certain times in the day? Maybe I'm traveling in a bus and I have nothing to do, so I'm daydreaming. Right? I am the king and everybody is bowing to me. Right? But when the daydream is not going on, when the daydream is not in operation, maybe I'm doing something interesting, I'm seeing a movie, I'm not daydreaming at that time. But can we see that the effect of the daydreaming is in operation all 24 hours? That it is affecting us all 24 hours. So, we now have to start on a journey to make these unconscious imaginations which we've collected, and 5 or 6 which are most important, we have to bring them into light, bring them into the conscious, into the light of consciousness. Otherwise they keep on repeating and they keep on destroying a part of us, destroying a part of our essence every time we daydream. Now, in light of yesterday and last 2-3 days talks, what are we doing when we daydream? What are we doing when we daydream? In light of the 3 forces. In light of the 3 forces. We are continuously creating passive force. We are continuously creating passive force. What else in light of the pendulum? In light of the pendulum. We are experiencing something. Now, just see, on one side we are creating passive force. On one side I am in a palace. I am a king, maybe having a bath in rose water or something of that sort. I don't know. So I am on this side of the pendulum. From this side I can only go to this side. Can you see by daydreaming what we are inviting in life? We cannot go up from here. We can only go, the pendulum can only swing from this side to this side. So one side we are continuously creating passive force. We are continuously inviting obstacles in our life. And there's another rule over here. Because there is no passive force in daydreaming. Can you understand what I'm trying to say? In life, every step of life brings different challenges, different obstacles. In daydreaming, there are no obstacles. Right? If I'm listening to a song of Lata Mangeshkar and I'm imagining that I'm the best singer in the world, right? There is nobody throwing a shoe at me. Definitely if I start singing now, everybody is going to throw a shoe at me. Can you understand? So in the daydream, there is no passive force at all in the daydream. So by the daydream, I am collecting passive force all the time and there are no obstacles. So at one point in my life, I become so habituated to dreaming because I can't take obstacles in life. I can't take the passive force in life, and life is obstacles. Now see, two people want to get married. So what do we have to see if we really want a good marriage? What do we have to see? Whether both their daydreamings are compatible or not. Can you imagine one guy, he's dreaming of sex all the time. So this is his daydream. He goes into this trip of so many women and he's marrying this girl and he's telling her, I love you forever and ever. Can you see how is it possible? Right? So, on the face of it, he's saying, I've fallen in love. I love you for ever and ever. Right? And whenever he's daydreaming about so many women. And both these things cannot be compatible. It's not possible. This marriage can never be a happy marriage. So, what are we dreaming of? That is more important than two bodies meeting. Now just see the girl. She may be singing the songs of the latest Hindi movies. And she may be imagining that she is like this actress or that actress. Right? Where the hero comes from behind the trees and after a few days of marriage, just the dry boredom of marriage, he comes from office, nothing behind the tree, nothing. So, it is not two bodies meeting, it is two imaginations meeting. And these imaginations must be compatible to each other. And if they are not, then the marriage becomes mutually destructive. The marriage. Any form of imagination, if it is just allowed to run without any pause, it will ruin our life completely. So two people, because of their unconscious daydreaming, their unobserved fantasies of themselves can psychologically destroy each other. Then there is no psychological satisfaction in that marriage. There must be a movement, a psychological movement in the marriage. Each one tries to learn from the other. There must be a movement of attention. The woman's attention is one-pointed, the man's attention is fragmented. It is a wide attention. The man is interested in so many things. He's interested in sports, he's interested in the president of the country, he's interested in the elections. But the woman is interested in a small range, my home, my kitchen, So two different types of attention are meeting. And both are a part of consciousness. So the man learns from the woman learns from the man. So initially they meet physically, but slowly the psychological differences start cropping up. And now the other person to use those differences to move ahead. And then a point comes in marriage where you make an effort to make all differences complementary. And this is a long process. Everything that is contradictory, you start making an effort to make it complementary. I don't like this in my wife, how can I complement it? And then love moves from physical love to psychological love. Real love is psychological. Now there are no differences. There is only the art of complementing the other. It is not a question of what is right and what is wrong. It is not a question of what is true and what is false. It is the inner art of complementing, making the opposites into complementaries. That which you don't like, to rise above it. Then that marriage turns out into being a real school, a real education. Psychological growth comes out of that marriage. So, but if it's just imagination, two imaginations meeting, then in the end it becomes just two bodies are living together and the marriage is dry. So very superficial and tiresome relationship comes out of just bodies wishing to unite without the slightest idea of what the psychology must do. Through imagination we take as ourselves, we imagine we are not what we are. We keep on imagining something we are not. So in reality, love is psychological, but practically it is all imagination. Young girls, they have it what we used to call when we were children as the Cinderella Fantasy. That some prince is going to come and maybe find their shoe. Which foot fits this shoe, the Cinderella Fantasy. And they hear stories of how young actresses came up, and so they start feeling jealous of the actress. And we don't realize that this jealousy is not of another person, it has come out of a form of imagination. And that imagination then throughout that girl's life, it dominates her in different ways which she does not know. So use memory to counter imagination. Make a different memory. We will call this as our work memory. And the work memory, keep it clean, don't corrupt the work memory. All our memory is a corrupted memory. We don't have any real memory. Even though the courts say that this person murdered him, so eyewitness is taken as truth. But our memory can never be the truth. So make a new memory. And in that memory, just put in things related to your sadhana. Nothing else. Don't add anything to that memory. And try to have a memory of today. How many times did I daydream today? Try to remember. How many times did I go off today? Which were the typical forms of daydreaming? Who were the characters involved? Why are they involved? Try to go into it. See, Karna never created a work memory. Karna means ear. You hear something and you forget it. Or you keep it in a very shallow piece of memory where you can't remember it. It's not kept properly. So at the right time in the Mahabharata battle, he forgot the mantras which his guru had given him. Forgot the mantras. And this is what happens. At the right time we forget everything. Here of course we'll note down everything. I remember Vimlaji was once telling me that she went to Vinobaji. She was with Vinobaji in the Bhudan movement. And she told Vinobaji that, I want to learn the Brahma Sutras from you. So, the usual thing was that they would start walking at 3 o'clock in the morning and they would walk till about 9 o'clock. Right? So the next day they were going to go on a Padayatra. So they started walking at 3 o'clock in the morning and Vinobaji was walking next to Vimlaji and he started explaining the Brahma Sutras. And there were no notes to write, of course, because you are doing the Padayatra. Then they came to one place where they were supposed to stop. They would spend the day there and then spend the night there. In the evening, Vinobaji came to her tent. And he said, will you tell me what I told you this morning? And he had been talking for nearly 6 hours. And she recited everything he said. When he was leaving, he said that point which you said, I had not said it at that time, I had said it at this time. So, our memory has become so there's so much weight in our memory, we are carrying so much of useless stuff that we have to write notes. My guru started lecturing in 1981. I met him in 1988 and I started attending his lectures in 1989 regularly. And I asked him that, sir, can I tape your lectures? So he said yes. So I used to sit there with a small tape recorder and tape his lectures. And that is how we have about 50 of his lectures taped, is because of that thing. Now before that, in those 7 years when he was lecturing, many people had come to him and said that, can we tape your? And if somebody would put a tape recorder, he'd pick it up and throw it away. So, but maybe a time came when he realized that people's memory has now become, it's not what it used to be. We're carrying a lot of luggage in it. So create a new memory for sadhana, memory for the work. Only that can master imagination. The more imagination clears away, the closer we come to the soul, the closer we come to our real I. We have to fight imagination. The imaginary I, not the real I. The soul is the real I. The imaginary I. It needs a continuous fuel of imagination to support itself. Can you see that to run your car you need petrol? But for your daydreaming you don't need any petrol. However tired you are, you don't need any petrol. It keeps on. Right? In Sanskrit we call this swa rasvahi. It keeps getting the petrol from itself only. Swa rasvahi. It takes it's like a perpetual motion inside. Some people have an imagination that if I had met such and such person, there was this girl, they say that, why did you get married? I didn't get married because I was looking for the perfect man. And in all these years you never met the perfect man. He said, I met him once, but then he was looking for the perfect woman. So we always feel, this person would have understood me, this person would have understood me, if I had met. So the only way to be free of imagination is to slowly start practicing self-observation. And as we are, slowly the imagination starts dropping, we will feel as if we have been cured of a very, very bad disease. Because what we imagine about ourselves is full of fantasy, and we will be thrown into a rich and uplifting state. And many times a lot of violent dreams, violent illusions which we have are all created by imagination. Imagination keeps us asleep, it keeps us in vanity, it keeps us in conceit. Can you see that here is a person that life keeps on bringing tragedies, keeps on bringing obstacles. Small things maybe I go to do in life and I get reverses. So somewhere I feel that life is not treating me well. But in my imagination I am the best person. Can you see how far away from reality it is? And I keep on imagining.
Rajendra, you mentioned once that you get this primal therapy where it takes you back to childhood, and I know other therapies also that takes you to childhood and even into the womb where you can sort of deal with these issues that you're saying. Would you advise that? Do you think it's so helpful that they have this aggressive therapy? There's a lot that's out there. I just want to know what you because it's related to what you're saying. Would it change the present outcome if you go back, change it there with a therapist and then come back?
It's a therapy. It's therapy. Why do you give ECT in medicine? It's a therapy. Why do you give ECT? No? So the person is mad. We say this person has gone. What do you say? He's gone cuckoo. What do you say? One flew over the cuckoo's nest. And you give him electric shock, ECT, right? What does that electric shock do? What does it do? It rearranges patterns and pathways in the brain, right? So that person next day becomes normal, sort of normal. Now in 6 months the old pathways come back. In those 6 months, if he consciously works against those old pathways, then maybe that ECT has some value. You understand what I'm trying to say? But if he does not consciously work, then in 6 months all the old patterns are going to come back, because those old patterns have been formed by thousands and thousands of years of habituation. You understand what I'm trying to say? So the therapy will help. How much it will help, I don't know. You get, well, self-observation is permanent. Once you've separated from it, it can never come back. See, they have cathartic techniques. You heard of cathartic techniques, where they throw out the poison. See, one of the cathartic techniques is laughing club. It's a cathartic technique. So, for some time you throw it out, but that does not change the pattern. That does not change the organic memory inside. Say, a person has a blocked artery. You do an angioplasty. But if the cell is habituated to block, it's going to try to block again. So, there must be a transformation in the patterns, what we call as sanskar. No therapy can change sanskar. It can create a situation where for some time they are in a state of suspension or something. No? So, Yanov created a beautiful therapy, cryotherapy. So, one of Yanov's techniques was, he would use the word Ma, M-A, mother, Ma. So, the first word the child says is Ma, mother, Ma. And he would use that word. And he would make that person keep on shouting, Ma. So, at one time he would be thrown back to his mother's womb. Right? It is a very powerful technique. It is a very, very powerful technique. Because I know my guru made me do it. That is why I'm trying to tell you. It is a very powerful technique. But in the end, there is no replacement for consciousness. Technique is technique. It creates a ground where it is easy for you to introduce consciousness. Just now, I try to bring in consciousness, again this monkey slips and he's daydreaming again. Again I try a little, again he slips and he's daydreaming again. And there are so many things to trigger associations. Just, I'm going in the bus and one picture board and the association is triggered. And it starts. Right? And anything can trigger, one bird chirping or the horn of a car. You see? So therapy can create a situation where it is easier for me to, stop it for some more time. Bring in consciousness. But unless I make that effort to bring in consciousness, it's not going to last. So many techniques in the market today. It's full of techniques. And people, they spend their life going from one technique to the other, and they forget the basic thing is to bring in consciousness. And if you bring in consciousness, then there's no need of any technique. Now, as physical death approaches, as we grow old, many of these imaginations drop. That does not mean the pattern has changed. The pattern may not have changed. We have only come to terms with it. We are not free of the pattern. Now, see a person who has lived his whole life in imagination. At the point of death, he has nothing real. Only nothing has gone into the essence, nothing has changed in the essence. And only real I is real, only the essence is real. And as long as we are in imagination, as long as we are in negative states, nothing changes in the essence. Even in our life, one moment of separation where we separated from one form of imagination, separated from one form of negativity, right? That is registered in the essence forever. That goes into the essence forever.
See, I'm living this life here. And these are points, present moments. All these present moments, I'm either before or after the present moment. Either before, then I'm in brooding, after I'm in daydream. Right? So I'm swinging like this. Now at some point, I separate over here and something goes up into the essence at some point over here. Now say the next line of time is my next line. All these moments are wasted, but this one which went in at that point in that next life, where that same point in time touches, something is going to come to meet me at that time.
So can you see, even one moment of separation, one moment of consciousness is never lost. It's like the wire is a cold wire and we are moving along that wire. But at one point, suddenly the wire is heated up and the heat moves up. And when we come to that wire at that same point, that heat will come to touch us at that point. That consciousness will bring some experience in that new life. That even that one moment will bring some experience in that new life. Something will cry out from within us. What are you doing? Try to be conscious. And maybe it is that moment in time which brought us all together over here. That one moment, something from the past came to meet us. Something in our essence. So even a momentary experience goes a long way. And then if we can add up, if those momentary experiences start adding up. Now, many people live in a very passive state of imagination. And if you see their eyes, they are always unfocused eyes. With their eyes open, they look blind. And sometimes they are so unfocused that they can't hear also. You're shouting next to them, but they can't hear also. And sad to say, but one of the reasons why I hardly go to schools to teach these days. One of my Guru Bhais goes. And you see, when I see the children and I see that at this age the eyes have become unfocused, it's a lot of pain. It's a lot of pain. That what has education done to these children? They are daydreaming all the time. This passive state of daydreaming all the time. And the whole idea of, like you take a knife and sharpen it, or you take a sword and sharpen it. The whole idea of education was to sharpen the attention. And all education did was kill the attention. What is the point? Whatever knowledge you have gained, whatever your memory may have this thing, whatever degrees you have gained. But if you are living in that dead state all the time, daydreaming all the time, what is the point? So they have these unfocused eyes. And that is why when I see in a talk, in a lecture, I keep looking at people's eyes. I know when somebody has gone into daydreaming. immediately the eyes say.
Is there any way where they are seeing this problem and trying to do something about it with children?
You would be shocked. There are good ashrams in India, huge ashrams. Maybe they have a lot of finances also, and it means they can do good work. And when you go to those schools in those ashrams, everything is false personality. They've forgotten now you go to one ashram and he's telling me of how good his students are in Sanskrit and how many awards they have won in Sanskrit. Can you see? And how early in the morning they are saying so many sloks and this and that. And he doesn't realize that all the awards are part of false personality. Right? You made a machine reciting Sanskrit. There are good ashrams in the south which are so good. I mean, started by really conscious gurus. The guru is no longer there. They are now teaching modern management techniques. Now there are so many schools in the West teaching modern management techniques. Why did you have to teach this? Okay. But the West is waking up. The West is waking up. Today I got a phone from America from a Qigong person who's written a book on Qigong and management. And he learned about these breathing techniques which I am teaching. So he called me and just before coming here, 15-20 minutes before I came here, and he called me and he's saying that when are you coming? I want to learn your techniques and I want to see whether I can amalgamate it bring consciousness into my management. So, but somewhere we've lost those eyes which children should have. And here 12 standard students, they're taking, their eyes are dead. And one of the things is TV and video games also. One of the things is, I had this one boy in Vancouver, his father came to me. And it's the same thing, he's addicted to playing the video game. He can't get up from that. Right? And you don't realize that you're now living in an imaginary world, nothing real. Nothing real. See, in the old days, there was not this form of entertainment. People would dance, people would sing. You see, there was an inner involvement. Now somebody else does it and we watch it. You get it? And they are doing it now on a TV screen. So that it becomes entertainment, that inner joy has gone.
So when they're doing it, in those days when they used to dance and sing, their creativity in doing the dance or singing also helps towards.
Yes, the creativity, the essence becomes powerful. You see, I'm not saying that it was conscious. There may not have been consciousness, but those people had powerful essences. Today we have a very, very powerful personality, but a very weak essence. Powerful personality people, they come to the ashram. Right? Ashram is a simple place. And they may be very successful in life, but they can't sleep because there's a lizard in the room. There's no essence. No essence at all. One of the things which I do with children is I take them in the jungle, no torch allowed at night. No torch allowed. Use your eyes. Now, if you see today, young children, the mother is frightened to switch off the light. The baby is in the pram. Keep him in darkness as much as possible. And the mother is frightened to switch off the light. And the more he goes into darkness, the more there will be less fear inside. And then a time comes when he can't live without the light. He has to switch on the light. These are small things, but you see, we can train our children. No, we can train our children. So I remember when my son was very young, I used to take him for long walks in the dark only, no torch. I couldn't do the same with my daughter because I was traveling all the time by then. So, it's very important. And this then, if it's done at a young age, then remains throughout the life. Then that person will have less daydreaming, because the essence is powerful. But from the day one, if you start making the personality powerful, how fast is he going to learn ABC? You're making the personality powerful. Keep the personality a little away. Up to 5 years, try to feed the essence of the child. So there's a powerful essence. He does not run away from pain. People with very powerful personalities, but they can't take even a little bit of pain. They can't take a little bit of being upset in life. If something goes wrong, they can't take it. There's no essence. See, we're not talking about consciousness. Consciousness is the third factor. We're just talking about strong essence. And Gurdjieff in his, in his autobiography, which he has written, Meetings with Remarkable Men, beautiful autobiography. And where he says, in his young days they had one game they used to play. And in that old Russia, there was a firing range where the soldiers would go to practice firing. And the children, they played a game that when the firing was going on, who could run across the firing range. And Gurdjieff says that he lost one of his friends in that. He died. And he was also hit once by a bullet, but they kept on playing the game. Now, I'm not saying you do this. What I'm trying to say is that these are people with powerful essence inside. The essence must be powerful.
Where does the fear of darkness come in young children?
The fear of?
Darkness.
Because the mother is always using the light, no? When the child is in the pram, she'll leave the light in the room on. So the idea is to keep him in darkness. And the child does not know at that time. He becomes habituated to light after some time. So before that happens, you should try to keep him for some time in darkness. Yeah.
So would you agree with the same with if they cry, let them cry?
For some time, yes. The lungs become powerful.
Yes. But also they don't become this dependent and drive the parents crazy. Let them cry through the night.
No, not through the night.
Up to a point, maybe.
Just cry a little. And then
I wouldn't get up from my bed.
You have to give love.
Sometimes.
You have to give love.
If it went on for 2 hours or something, then I'll get up.
Don't wait 2 hours. Of course, you're not going to have a child now. Don't go to an extreme. Keep it. Huh?
I walked them out of the Drakensberg that I took. I wouldn't let them.
Yeah.
I wouldn't let them. I said one day, you won't have a talk.
You have to make a strong essence. And in today's world.
And here, it's to prove that you don't need it. Your eyes will adjust.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Very true. And in our place, we have all 4 kinds of poisonous snakes. Yeah, there are 4 kinds of poisonous snakes. Actually, when I went to live on the farm, and first 6 months we had no electricity also. And I remember there were times when I would go to the bookcase and there would be a big snake on the bookcase like that. So slowly you realize this is just our imagination. It's just our imagination. Anyway. So they have unfocused eyes, they are deaf and blind at the same time, and they have a certain withdrawn expression. Now, a withdrawn expression of a sadhu, a person who is separated from life, and a person who is in total imagination. These are two different things. And also because that person is in imagination, is daydreaming, there's a sense of satisfaction on the face. So this is what you should observe. And that inner dream which is going on, which he is dreaming all the time, is draining him completely of life force. It is sucking his life force away. I mean, I told you about that person who used to take those films of the subtle body, and one of the films he showed me was of a patient with AIDS. And there was no physical body, there was the subtle body, and in the subtle body there was a black tornado. And it was sucking up all the energy of the body, all the vital matter of the body it was sucking up. So similarly, this is like something going on in he's daydreaming on, and it's sucking up all his vital energy. It's a kind of living dead. And it's like you are attending a very expensive movie. The movie is going on inside and you are paying for it with your life force. So a life of uncontrolled imagination absorbs a person, draining force and leaving him with no connection to the facts of life. Then it becomes very difficult to relate to the facts of life. And we have all kinds of fantasies, all kinds. I am the best singer, I am the best batsman, I am the best race driver in the world, I am the best politician in the world, I always win the lottery. And all the girls look at me only. And if I go disco dancing, I am the best dancer also. Daydreams. And it never ends. Supposing I am the best runner in the world and I have broken the world record in my daydreaming, right? It doesn't end. Tomorrow I want to break that record again. It doesn't end over there. Imagination is insatiable. It can never, be satisfied. It keeps on and on. And such people, they refuse to even be corrected by any kind of experience. So a person who is imaginary, he has no real side to him. Everything is false. He's just following that imagination. I am the finest, I am the cleverest, I am the most famous man in the world. And all this is imagination, nothing real.
What does it mean if you're not thinking of anything? What does it mean if you're not thinking of anything?
It's good, no? It shouldn't lead to depression. Shouldn't lead to depression. When you're not thinking of anything, try to observe, try to see. We think. We should see. The Atma sees. It does not think. The mind thinks.
What do you see?
So the inner soul, it only knows how to see. So as long as we are seeing inside, keep making that effort to see inside, then it will become alive. Right? But we don't create a situation where we feel we are not thinking and deep down everything is going on. And that is what happens in a certain kind of depression. Try to see, keep on seeing. There must be the act of seeing, there is observation. That is a very alive thing to do, to see. Thinking is a dead thing to do. So, keep on making an effort to see. Now, something out of imagination we talked some days ago, quite a few days ago. What was it? Can you remember? I'm going to repeat it a little today. We talked about one side of imagination. There are three sides of imagination. And the third side is what we call visualization. That is something which is very powerful and which should be done. Visualization. But before that I want to talk about something else. What did we talk about quite some days ago, a few days ago? What do we create out of imagination? Which makes us blind to the other side of life. We create pictures of our self, imaginary pictures of our self. And every moment in our life we are a picture. Imaginary picture. Pictures are formed out of the powerful force of imagination. And pictures dominate us completely. If I have a picture that I never say a lie, I'm a very truthful person, I will never be able to notice when I lie. And if somebody comes and tells me, you lied over here, I will justify it and say, it's all nonsense, I didn't, I meant this, I did not mean that. Can you see how in my consciousness I am not willing to see a side of myself? And there are people who come and say, I always speak the truth. It's not possible. Right? That means they are blocked people. They are living in one small room of their psychological world. If I have a picture of how kind and generous I am, right? Maybe I gave the beggar some money in the morning, then I'll never be able to see how mean I can be. And people can't see it. They may be mean to their own brother, but they'll give something to the beggar. And they can't see it. If I have a picture of how pure I am and how good my character is, I will never see how when I'm in the bathroom in my most secret thoughts, how perverted I can be. I'll never accept it. Just a picture I have of myself. If I have a picture of how intelligent I am, I will never be able to see my own stupidity. The picture prevents us from seeing what is not in the picture. We cannot accommodate that feeling of ourselves which is outside the picture. I am this picture. I am this picture. I am a very good father. Good picture. Right? And then if somebody comes and says that you did not pay proper attention to your son, I get offended. I get upset. And this shows that I am in a picture. A picture is dominating me. I am in imagination. So this is the other side of imagination. Patanjali is talking about vikalpa. So we are blind to everything that is not included in our picture of ourselves. And we have so many pictures. We have thousands of them. We cannot see. If my brother is in front of me, I have a picture as a brother. If my son is in front of me, I have a picture as a father. If I'm on my farm, I have a picture of a farmer. If somebody will ask me, what do you do on my farm? So I'll go in my past glories where I grew tomatoes and God knows what. Pictures. So many pictures we have of ourselves. Everything is false. It prevents us from realizing our real self. And when somebody threatens our picture, we burst into tears. We start crying. Right? And if by mistake we point out somebody else's picture, because it's very easy to see somebody else's, very difficult to see ours, then that person gets angry on us. That how can you be so mean? How can you be so brutal? And if we look at our lives, most of our pain and suffering comes from identification with pictures. False personality and picture go together. False eyes, false pictures, false imagination, false pity, false pride. Try to see what we are touchy about. Try to see inside. If somebody says this, where do you feel offended? What offends you the most? And there the pictures are the strongest. If somebody offends me about my profession, somebody offends me about the kind of home I live in, somebody criticizes that, somebody criticizes my car, my clothes, the color of my skin. Where do I get offended? Wherever I get offended, there is a picture. Wherever I get hurt, there is a picture. Where we take offense easily, be sure we are hypnotized by an imaginary picture. All of us have met people who cannot take even this much of criticism. And little bit you criticize them and they get so upset, they'll never talk to us again. They'll slam doors. Do anything. And they'll keep on saying that this person said this about me. This person said this about me. See, this is my being, my level of being. What is my level of being? How much can I take? How much can I take? That is my level of being. Whatever my personality is. But if I can take only so much, that is my being. That is how strong my being is. How much can I take? And how much can I not? At what point do I lose control and blow up? That is my being. See, this is a very, very deep teaching about pictures. It's a very deep teaching. And it is rarely understood by anybody. At least intellectually, please make an effort to understand this, because nobody else talks about this. And it's so difficult because people come wearing orange clothes and malas and they are all in a picture. They are not free from the picture. And they are talking big philosophy. But at least free yourself from the picture. Everything is imaginary. The main reason we don't realize this is that we have so many pictures and we spend our whole lives either in one picture or another. They are formed out of imagination and they have total control over us. They replace the actual with the imagination. And it is not that we have just pictures of ourselves, we have them of other people also. There's a beautiful story where the king was going to go out on a procession in the town, and the tailor said, "We'll make the best clothes for you." And of course the clothes were invisible. And everybody was saying, oh, the king was of course without any clothes, and everybody was complimenting him on the beautiful clothes he's wearing, and one young child laughed and said, the king is without any clothes. All the pictures must drop. Pictures must drop. That is why self-observation, working on self, I talk about them, but this is all harsh work I'm asking you all to do. It is really brutal business. Right? I should have just given you a mantra, keep on. Create a new picture, be happy. The human family is hypnotized, asleep through the power of imagination. They say that Narad once went to the Lord Vishnu and he told Vishnu Bhagwan that so many people on earth are now becoming God that slowly we'll have no place to stay over here. You better do something about it. So then Vishnu is saying, yes, when I created this world, I forgot to give man imagination. If I give him imagination, he'll imagine he is God, so nobody will come over here. So then he created imagination. So all of us have a certain number of pictures which take charge of us, blind us to self and make us believe what we are not. To fight against imagination is an immense struggle. And we have to keep on trying with every trial and failure. Observe other people. Observe other people. Sit on the bench outside your home. Observe people moving on the road. How they are chattering to themselves. How they are smiling to themselves. How they are sulking inside. And you will see that he is totally hypnotized by some picture. And we have all kinds of picture. We are a member of some political party, then we have some picture of ourselves as a politician. And if somebody says you did this good work, it fills air in the picture. Or we go to a party somewhere, we observe another person who is trying very, very hard to be very nice to everybody. And you can see he is totally in the power of a picture. He has this picture to be nice to everybody. And he can't see what he is in himself deep down. Somebody else goes to the gym every day, so he has a picture of how strong he is. And he's walking on the road and waiting for somebody to push him a little. Or you see somebody walking very fast on the road and his whole face is in a frown and his shoulders are like this as if the whole world is on top of him. It's again in a picture. And there are some people who love to make other people laugh. And when other people laugh, they feel it feeds their inner picture that I make other people laugh. Other people, they walk with an aristocratic air. They've been born in some family, in some position. And they talk like that. You can see it on TV. So many of them come. The way he eats, the way he talks. He's totally hypnotized by a picture. We live in imagination. We don't meet real people. Two imaginary people meet. All the friends meet. It's just imagination meeting imagination. One picture meeting another picture. And if these pictures were to go, we'll go mad. Because we have nothing else to hold on to. It is only when we have a certain love for our sadhana, a certain love for the work, a certain magnetic center inside, then we start breaking these pictures and then we don't feel the pain of the picture breaking. We know that we are breaking it for something higher. We start observing the pictures, separating from them. Oh, time is over. Just try to see this. This is a very long thing about pictures. Right? There was that old joke about the mouse who was dancing very hard in the lion's wedding. So somebody asked the mouse that, why are you dancing so much in the lion's wedding? So he's saying, before my wedding also I thought I was a lion. So we have these pictures inside. Yes, I'm a lion, I'm an eagle, I'm a genius, I'm a very fine person. And we love it when somebody satisfies our picture. I will stop over here. But
Let me ask, is this the reason when people grow older and they on their own or whatever, they find themselves, let's say for example, staying on their own, that they unable to do so because of the pictures
and the imagination. They're always going in the past. You can see they're chattering all the They're chattering, they keep on going in the past.
How do you help?
They won't recognize you, but they'll remember the past.
So then you on anxiety as well.
So it's this, they're totally in imagination. And you can't help it, nothing real has happened in life. Nothing real has happened in life. Everything is a part of personality and false personality. Nothing essential.
At that state can be helped then.
Best thing is to block the right nostril. That is at least one way of helping them. Other thing is bring in music. Because music is very soothing. At least in music, in some places where you dissolve into the music, you do experience something higher. You get something what is called Sur Samadhi. So, any form of creativity. No? Yeah.
Did you say visualization is very powerful and should be done?
Yes.
Is that the right brain?
That is the conscious use of imagination. So when an architect is constructing a house, designing a house, sorry, not constructing, he is using visualization. So visualization is right use of imagination. Visualization, as it goes deeper, it creates within us a kind of Shakti called Dharana Shakti, the power of holding. Later on, Patanjali will take us to Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi, the three inner steps. So, the power of holding one thought. So, that is visualization. And children should be taught visualization. Visualization can even go much further also.
And that's because it's focused.
Focused. It's a conscious use of imagination. Visualization can even go much further also.
And that's because it's focused.
Focused. It's a conscious use of imagination.
But visualization is a form of imagination.
Conscious imagination. It is controlled imagination. It's not let loose. Right? You visualize how you would like to arrange the seating arrangement. There is a controlled use of imagination. Right? I'm not daydreaming. I'm harnessing the power of imagination. No? Later on that will come up to dharana. The power of holding one thought and not allowing another thought to come in. Yeah.
Can you reconcile with young people who are so good with computer games and that? They need focus to do it. I can't do it. So can you explain that?
Yeah, but they're totally hypnotized. The focus is there, but it's totally hypnotized. They cannot use that same focus in any other sphere of life. Can you get what I'm trying to say? There is no all-round development. They can concentrate on the computer, but they are hypnotized. There is no consciousness over there. They are not consciously controlling theirs. They are liking it. They are hypnotized by it. That's why they are doing it.
Sorry, Rajen.
Yeah.
If we aspire our children to become something or changing their imagination, like if we say, who do you want to be or what do you want to become when they are growing now? Are they dwelling in imagination right?
You can tell them, but it shouldn't, you see, imagination is needed for certain planning. No? I want to go on a trip somewhere, so I plan it out. I have to buy a ticket, I have to do this, I have to do that. But now the ticket has come, everything has come, now I am daydreaming. That I am already there. You get what I am trying to say? Maybe eating ice cream somewhere. So, then I am daydreaming. The problem with children is they start daydreaming immediately. That, okay, I've already got my degree, now I'm earning so much money, now I'm doing this. You get what I'm trying to say? So, rather teach them visualization. Visualization is very creative and very powerful. And it opens up faculties in the brain which lie totally, unused. So, that is the thing in children. Actually, some of the experiments which my teacher used to give me for children, I have not been able to put into practice myself also, for any children. And one of them was that he used to say that you take a deck of cards, right, and make the child visualize. And you put one card in front of him, like this, and his eyes are closed, and teach him to come to a point where he's telling you 9 out of 10 it is right. You cannot do it beyond a certain age. You have to do it with very young children.
Guessing.
It's not guessing. He's using the power of visualizing, and he can visualize the card. So, visualizing is not just what the architect does. Visualization goes much beyond. And when you go into ancient scripts, it goes even beyond that also. Can you understand what I'm trying to say? And all the dark arts, what we call the dark black magic, what we call. It is people who have very, very powerful capacity to visualize. It is negative use, that is a different matter. You understand what I am trying to say? Right? Supposing I can just put my hand like this and create your form over here. I am visualizing it so powerful as if it is real. And I say, okay, go and do this. Can you feel it? Supposing I say God made man in 5 elements, right? But I have the power of making man in 1 element. Say I take Jal Tattva, water, so I am saying water. And so this water is there, it's like this. And suddenly I make it take your form. And I am holding it here. Can you see the power of visualization? So there is a negative side to it, there is a positive. But there are so many faculties in the brain which are lying totally unused. We can develop some of that. I think we'll stop. Yes.
Can visualization be considered to be positive in innovation?
No, there's a positive visualization is right use. But when I use it to manipulate people for power, or maybe to manipulate money, right? Then it's wrong use of that visualization. And the people who did it, the people who did it, right?
So innovation can be negative as well.
Yes, that's right. Let's stop over here. Jai Shri Krishna. Thank you.